Yo, Transform You family. Marcus Hart here, coming at you with some shameless Jesus love and gritty truth. Today, we are going to be kicking off a brand new series, Fade to Black, how Hollywood's legends are rewriting their final act. And it's about to set your soul on fire. Picture this, Michael Douglas, a Hollywood icon, just dropped a bombshell, worrying about dropping dead on set. He's feeling the weight of age in an industry obsessed with youth. Sound familiar? Hmm. Whether you are a vet battling PTSD, a creative facing career burnout, or a hope seeker wondering if your best days are gone, this series is for you. Are Hollywood's legends really fading to black? Or are they pulling off the greatest reinvention yet? Our guest, Patrice Williams-Lindo, workforce futurist and CEO of Career Nomad, is here to spill the secrets. She has helped pros stay relevant for 20 years. And family, she's got the playbook to keep you shining, no matter your age or stage. Are you ready to rewrite your final act? Let's dive in. Now, as always, before we get the rolling, if you are feeling at all spiritually exhausted, what if one simple shift could cut that weight by 30%? Get my free 3-minute prayer guide at marcus-hart.com to spark your breakthrough. Now, let's rise up, fam. Patrice, welcome officially to the Transform You Live show.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. And as I was saying on the other side, you're an incredible person. You're a visible strategist who's in Forbes, Business Insider, and Newsweek, dropping wisdom on how pros stay relevant without losing their soul. So I'm hyped to kick off this series with you. Let's get real for our creatives, our veterans out there, and change seekers who's out here grinding like us to the transition.
That's what it is, right? That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But how can we grind on our terms, right? So that it doesn't even feel like a grind. And that's what I'm discovering about myself, Marcus. So I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, so what you do really correlates to like this conversation. I want to jump into the Hollywood hustle and what it means to stay in the game. So you got this fade away vibe, like you're supposed to vanish when you hit a certain age. Like Michael Douglas, for example, he's out there talking about dropping dead on set. That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I remember when I sounded like my parents when I was younger, and I was like, 40, like I'm old people, or 50, God forbid, my grandparents. I didn't even know how old they were. They were just old. And at the ripe old age of 52, I'm like, well, I got some more things to do,
Exactly. It's not over with yet.
So, I what's the word? I really can clock into when I have tapped into what I like and then expand on that. How can I make it bigger? And that it was when I had the space to do that, right? Because I think lives, whether you have children, a family, aging parents, there's not always space to really hear, right? Within your own self, what those things are. And I would say it's something that started once I saw my mom do it. Once my sister and I were going off to college, she was like, okay, they're going off. Like, I'm going to go back and finish. So I kind of had that already in my DNA, right? Yeah. And then as my own children began middle and high school, I was like, well, let's look at this clock. Now they're going to be out of here in 6 years. Like, girl, you're not sitting at the house knitting, like, what are you going to do? Yeah. From not only I like to keep it moving perspective and growing, but also financial, right? Because we're not independently wealthy and we're working on it, right? What does that look like? And I just didn't want to have my back up against the wall. So I am 100% for this new, I'm going to say pivot, season, evolution, whatever you want to call it, because now we have the wisdom on top of the experience. And that's when I think we really know what our no's are no, our yeses are yes. And we have boundaries, right? Which helps everywhere.
Well, you're definitely speaking the language, and for so many out there who's been in your position, and
Yes.
those who in that in their mid career, professionals out there, especially Hollywood professionals, Googling
Hmm.
career longevity
Hmm.
in Hollywood.
Hmm.
Is it pressure to like kind of stay relevant, like
Oh
secretly
my
killing
goodness.
careers faster?
Oh my goodness. So, well, first of all, let's just say something because we know that this is what it is. Hollywood sells the myth of youth,
Right.
right? But longevity, stick to itiveness, staying around comes from reinvention. So let's talk about Method Man, for example.
Yeah.
I remember him when I was in college, and now I'm like, okay, man, you better go out there and get these people money, and he can still go to the club. You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what I mean,
Yeah.
and handle his business. And
Right.
that's only one example, right? So I'm going to say, yes, they sell the idea of youth, but it's up to us. We have the agency. I'm going to say,
Mhm.
especially as people of color, we know how to do a few things. Like we know how
Yeah.
to make it, do what it do, as they say. So what does that look like? So as I work with different, whether they're creatives, public figures, soon to be, like they probably spent their whole career being quiet, and now, they want to go be a DJ, or they want to be a
Hmm.
coach, or they want to do whatever their second thing is. I help them by evolving what they already have. So I tell them, we're not starting from zero. We start from where you are and what can we use. So this is the 2025 version of, how they say you can use a chat GPT, open your fridge, and you can say, what
Right.
am I going to cook for dinner
Yeah.
in 3 steps, right? I'm showing them that version of themselves and something that they enjoy. And you give them, the encouragement, and I'm going to say more support, because they
Hmm.
know how to do it, right? They Once you kind of get them on the bicycle and they start pedaling, right, they kind of understand what that looks like. But how can we not erase the past but build on it, right? Because sometimes when people feel like, oh my god, pivot, they hear the word pivot or start over and they think, oh my gosh, I just don't even have it, I may as well just stay where I am. Well,
Yeah.
no, this is not the stay where you are. It's like, how excuse me, how can you grow from where you are? So I call it like career composting.
Mm. That's a good
So
one.
basically, nothing is wasted, right?
Right.
You can turn your previous roles, the awards, the things you like, the things you didn't like, and frame that into something new, right? New revenue. So,
Hmm.
for example, I still have a 9 to 5 and I'm doing my 5 to 9, but I started out as a teacher.
Hmm.
I've worked in medical sales. I've worked in clinical roles in the hospital. And I really had to go through that, plus going to school, to really understand, well, what parts of this do I really like? Like, what
Right.
do I really like? And I like the people aspect of it. And
Hmm.
here's the funny part, I'm an introvert.
Me too.
I do not
I get
people
it.
well, but that's not true. I need to stop saying that. So
Yeah.
I tell people, I say I'm an extroverted introvert, in the
Yeah.
sense that
I say pseudo.
situationally, yeah, I can make it happen. But
Yeah.
my husband and I were laughing, Marcus, after all day of talking, and he talks all day for work too. We're so quiet. So when people come around us, they're like, "What's wrong?" We're like, "Nothing. We just talk all day." So by the end of the day, we are
Yeah.
like talked out. We're like, "What we eating for dinner? Anything going on?" Like on a rare occasion we may go out or something, but
Mhm.
we've learned how to communicate without talking as
Yeah.
much, because that's what we do for work. And I realized, like, oh, so my instrument is my voice.
Yes.
My instrument is my ability to take complex concepts and break them down into bite sized pieces so that the average person can understand it. Why? Because for a long time, Marcus, just being completely transparent, I felt dumb in a lot of rooms. I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know what the hell these people are saying. And, how can I figure this out? And so I would go home and try to, like, catch up and read through and get ready,
Yeah.
whether it's in a new role, whether it's in college, whatever the case might be. Then as I got older, Marcus, I realized, well, wait a minute. If you know this, for example, new position is coming up, or if you're taking a new class, I found for me, the beauty of time helps me to quiet that part of my
Yeah.
brain that's saying, you're not qualified, you shouldn't be there, you're not smart enough, whatever the case might be. So for example, last week I spoke at the Urban League. I've had my slides ready like 3 weeks ago. And then I just casually read them over and over. So it kind of becomes ingrained. And then the day of, I get a good night's sleep. And then I get up, I read through, and boom, it's like, but that leaves space for me when last minute things comes in,
Right.
right? But my normal is get it done early, work it into my system, my mental ecosystem that keeps my anxiety at bay. And then I go in, I pop my collar, I'm like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? It's different. But it took me like 40 years to figure that out. And so
Yeah.
because I didn't do it like other people, I thought I was doing something wrong. I thought, well, I'm not like these people over there. And that's not true. You need the space to understand how you learn, how you thrive. What are the things that you can or can't do to, I'm going to say, deal with the demons you have, right? So
Mhm.
for me, I get anxious, right?
Right.
I have performance anxiety, or I start to question what in last minute situations, especially if that's like the order of the day. Like onesie, twosie, I got room because I've done all my other stuff. But like even talking with you, since you and I spoken, like I put down my talking points. It was very much like, okay, like when you reached out yesterday to remind me, I was like, yep, I got that. But had you called me today, I've been like, ooh, what am I going to talk to him about? Like, but I just try to safeguard myself, right? And talk about boundaries. That's how boundaries come in. So that's what I encourage people to do because everybody's not the same. And so as they are career composting, as I was telling you about, what are the things that make you thrive? What are the things not so much? For me, pressure with time, I don't
Mhm.
thrive, especially if it's long term. If it's a hit it, and you can move on, then that's fine. But if it's constant, it just doesn't work. So we just have to realize that just like that, success in Hollywood isn't just about staying hot. It's about
Mhm.
staying relevant. It's about knowing yourself. It means knowing how you can reposition your value as your life and your audience, whoever that may be, and decision makers evolve. Because the people that you may have been worried about 20 years ago are not the ones you're talking to now, for example,
Right.
if you've grown. And if we stick with the Method Man example, who knew Method Man was going to be on Power and look so good doing
Oh,
it?
he did a good job. Excellent, man.
I
Yes.
mean, he kind of figured it out. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing in between because he started doing movies. And I remember, I'm going to date myself, but in the 90s when rappers went to movies, we were like, oh, Lord, what is this? What kind of foolishness is this? And he had a couple foolish ones. I mean, but
Right.
we laugh about them now. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But he's definitely honed his craft. He's
Yeah.
definitely figured out, how to make it do what it needs to do. And he's not the only one, but he's the one that I always look at. I'm like, he's in my age group. Like he's figuring some stuff out and he's
Right.
doing it in the creative way, meaning like my creative is corporate, right? His
Mhm.
creative is art. And I was like, okay, so like, what are the parts? Like if you are a, musician, like is acting your next thing, like is brand sponsorships your next thing, like what is it? And getting ahead of that and trying to come up with a plan that leaves you room to grow.
I love that. You
Yes.
cooking, Patrice. You cooking.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad.
I mean, going back to just like where you started with, like, being an introvert, and and then you really reach down deeper and you discover what your true passions are, what you really skilled at, and then you add in the live experience. You can
Yes.
definitely recreate yourself a lot more easier. It can be a lot more
Yes.
smoother transition because
Yes.
those skills, that live experience, it can just transition over to any place,
Oh
and you
yeah.
don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And you learn to give yourself some more grace too,
yeah,
because
you
I
do.
feel like when I was younger, I felt like I couldn't fail. Whereas
Right.
now I'm kind of like, okay, well, that didn't go how I thought it would, or dang, I knocked that out of the park. Didn't expect that, but
Mhm.
it's for me anyway, with therapy and living. It's like I've learned to say, is there blood on the floor? Oh, it's no blood on the floor. We all right. Like, let's go. I mean, and it's
Yeah.
not always as cut and dry as that, but again, it helps to quiet that voice of, oh my God, what am I doing? I shouldn't be doing this. I should just stuck to what I'm used to doing or know how to do. Like, but
Mhm.
if you can help to yourself to find the tools that you need, then reinventing yourself becomes a little more straight back. You're like, listen, I don't know if this is gonna fly or not, but this is my initial thought, and this is what
Mhm.
I'm gonna try. Or you go and you put yourself out there. At the beginning of this year, I was like, I have been speaking a little bit, and I've been coaching, and I'm doing this 9 to 5, but I want to get visible. It's like, okay, girl, what you gonna do? And so I started investigating, and I had maybe 3 media mentions last year. Now I'm
Mhm.
up to 150.
Wow.
And it's a mix, right? It's
Yeah.
articles, It's podcasts like this, which have led to more speaking engagements. And I was kind of like, oh, shoot. And I literally was just like, well, what's going to happen? Like, you pitch these journalists, they don't have to take it. Like,
Right.
I've written now maybe close to 400 pitches. But if out of the 400 pitches, I have 150, I had 3 last year. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Look, think of the millions of eyes globally, right? That
right.
you can do. And this is what reinvention looks like. It's messy. You don't know
Mhm.
what you're going to get. And so it could be from, the Rochester Journal that only applies in New York, but it could also be USA Today,
Yeah.
but it could also be Business Insider. It could be, on the podcast, anybody, anywhere can listen to that. You just never know. And so when I decided that I wanted to have global impact, I was like, well, I got to do global things.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so what are global things, girl? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Well, yes, you do. Give yourself some space. And literally, I was like, well, in print, right? Because I'm a reader. I was like, okay, well, maybe because I know I've looked people up and things up based on what I read and
Mhm.
what I consider reputable, publishing houses. So I was like, if I do that, then that could help me kind of get my name in rooms that I'm not in to help build that credibility. You know what I mean? It expands my audience and in a way that, I'm not saying a team couldn't do it, but the internet is a good worker for you if you do it right. Right. And so that's why I'm saying, that evolution, you just have to have, I think, the grace and the courage, but within, right, to be able to
Right.
do it. Because some people will be like, well, 150 out of 400 is not good stats, girl. Yes, it is when it was 3 last year.
Mhm.
Yes, it is when you can say millions of people have seen your name in print. So it just depends. You learn to evolve your success.
Well, yeah, definitely. You're lighting it up. And just speaking of evolution, you talked about Chat GPT earlier. You mentioned it earlier. People would say that's the big disruptor, shaking up things in
Mhm.
Hollywood or else AI. Is
Mhm.
it a threat or a game changer?
I think it depends on how you use it,
Mhm.
right? So I'm going to say number one, wine. Is it a threat or a game changer? But if you like wine in moderation, it's a game changer. You
Yeah.
and your girls or boys out, y'all having a good time, you let it go. You drink every day, all day, that's a threat.
Hmm.
So I think it's everything in moderation. So AI, for example, is not just for Gen Z or the Zillennials or all the names they want to give it. It
Yeah.
can be a creative amplifier for seasoned pros. So, for example, on my 9 to 5, if I got an email to write, baby, I get on Chat GPT. I'm like, okay, so here are the meeting notes. This is what I want out of it. What are the follow up actions? What are the questions that we need to ask? What are next steps? Who's responsible for this? Are there any blind spots? Anything I didn't think of? Anybody I missed? I mean, literally, it's like my virtual assistant, but
Yeah.
like I can dictate and it gives me an answer. And if it gets it wrong, because sometimes they do hallucinate, I
Mhm.
give like, no, I teach it. I'm like, okay, you know my voice. My voice is based on, for example, I have this framework that I call RNA. So don't forget rebranding, networking, and achieving recognition. And if it forgets, I start with remember my framework. Remember when we had spoke to just, it's like talking to my kids a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, remember when we had did that? And don't make no mistakes. Like, cause I'm gonna still check it over. Like I'm not just copying and pasting. I'm still reading through. But Marcus, I have been able to increase my productivity exponentially with it. Now, people say, well, what you putting in there? And, some people are uploading like their credit report and telling it what to say. No, I'm not doing that, Marcus. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but
Yeah.
there, I'm not willing to put anything on there that will put me in danger.
Yes.
Now, putting your finances on there, right? Your personal data information, that is dangerous, right? But
Hmm.
I think you can use, and I teach my clients this, you can use AI to create evergreen content. You can use AI to purpose interviews and IP. You can create like digital products and courses. I mean, embracing the tech, right? You just don't know what it can do for you, and it becomes a tool of sovereignty.
Yeah.
So, if, for example, you're a creative and let's say you used to let's say be a comedian, right? And let's say you upload a couple of your films on there to say, okay, what can I do with this? You can say what publishing houses you should reach out to, what's the best way to use this old content, should you be teaching a class, for example, there's just, you can ask it like all the things, like, or you can say, you know what, I don't know what to do with this, but I want to generate X number of dollars a month. How can I use this? What would you recommend? And if you're an introvert like me, what do you recommend so that I can see the least piece of people possible because it makes me anxious? Or what's my call script? Or what's the email, script that I need to send out to new, potential brand partnerships or something.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it becomes that co-conspirator slash collaborator with you, right? Again, you don't have to have a degree in prompting, but I would talk to it in the same way that, like, I talk to, like I said, my daughters, my good girlfriends, like, I was thinking such and thus and so. Or I say, we got chicken in the fridge, but I'm tired of baked chicken. What's And they'll say,
Yeah.
well, chicken with broccoli, jerk chicken, whatever the case might be. But this not only tells you that, it's like, and don't forget, you need this, you need that, or this is how you can do it. Because remember, you don't like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's as good as you make it. So
Yeah.
it's not a threat. I think it's definitely an add-on that it benefits us because we also have the wisdom to say, well, I want it like this. I don't want it like that. This is too edgy, or this is too bold, or I need some steps in between. So, for example, in my 5 to 9, I have a container that's a 90-day container. And
Mm-hmm.
that container, we do 90 days of the rebranding, 30 days of the rebranding, 30 days of the networking, 30 days of the achieving recognition. Well, I said to it the other day, I was like, sometimes when I get with these 90-day people, I don't think I like them like that. Can we do a smaller version of this? And it came up with a 30-day power boot camp. And so it's a skinny version of what I produce in the 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
It, gave me what do you call it? The details of the demographics, what to price it, how to market it. I have 4 people in that program. I did that in 24 hours.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not independently wealthy, right? But
Right.
if I were thinking of that on my own, Marcus, I can't. First of all, I don't know if I would have gotten there.
Yeah.
Second of all, it would have been overwhelming to come up with like the copy to email. What does
Mm-hmm.
the program look like? What do I think it should cost? Who is my person, for example, to come into the 30 versus the 90, and how can I position it so that it creates that funnel, so that once they have a discovery call with me, then they do this and that. So that's why I'm saying AI is an accelerator that creatives can use in that way too, because especially if they have, a body of work, they can literally put parts of that body of work in their tool of choice. I just said ChatGPT, but we all have different tools, and there's a
Yeah.
mirage of tools. You can use the tools to generate your next, or help be a part of generating your next.
I love that. Patrice, you giving our family out there hope that
Oh
AI
yes.
ain't just a
Oh
threat, it's a
yes. Oh yes.
tool,
Oh yes.
and licensing, knowledge, um, it's a real good way real good practical way that you just shared that, like, that they can use AI,
Oh
you know.
yeah.
But the important part is what you mentioned is that, that you put your voice in there. You
Yep.
put,
Yep.
what your structure is, and so to create like the most optimal
Oh
um
yes. Oh yeah. You can
content,
rewrite your
so
script with AI.
yeah,
You really, really
yeah.
can. I mean, I just think that as older slash seasoned professionals, you can
Mm-hmm.
use AI to outlast and outsmart things like ageism, racism.
Yeah.
Not that you completely gotten those off the table, but you help to skinny that because it takes the human element out, right? A lot of times, by the time people get, for example, to my clients or to my program,
Yeah.
they are so woo. They. I could look like damn Attila the Hun, and they don't even know because they like, well, I need to work with
Yeah.
her, like her. You can create that, and it's not in a bait and switch way. It's just like I said, taking those things off the table. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really about what's in black and white, the results that you can produce, and how you did it. And literally, I've always liked this because as I was thinking about, for example, getting into consulting with my 9 to 5, it was the human version of this through a coach, and not a coach, what do you call it, guidance counselor. When I was in my
Yeah.
master's program, she was like, listen, you got these 2 master's degrees. What are you going to do with them? I was like, I don't know. And she goes, well, have you thought about consulting? I go, well, I'm not an engineer, because I didn't know anybody that was in consulting, right? And I
Yeah.
thought consulting was only like engineers or accountants, right? So I was thinking Price Waterhouse and Ernst and Young. And so she goes, no. She goes, every company has an HR department, for example. With your degree, you can go teach. The way you taught in a school, you can use those same skills to teach in HR, for example. And she's like, once you get there, it could be product development, it could be product management, it could be innovation team. She was like, the world is your oyster. Do not think that teaching in somebody's classroom is the only way that you can use, the skills and the knowledge that you've gotten from this education. And so that was kind of what got my wheels turning. So now I was
Right.
like, okay, so every time I do something, yes, learn it, but also think about the other ways, right? Always be thinking about the other ways that you can do it to up level, whether it's the position you're in, the money you're making, your level of autonomy, to the point where people are looking for you
Mhm.
and you don't have to be out there looking. And I was like, oh, okay, got it, noted. You know what I mean? So I just think it's a way to really create your own lane. It's a way that you can use your tools to really multiply your reach, your money, your just the outcomes, the good you're putting in the
Uh-huh.
world.
Yeah, so based on that, you got this rebrand, network, achieve, recognition framework. You
Mm.
mentioned it earlier, and that's straight fire. That's straight
Oh,
fire.
thank you.
So for pros feeling too late or too old, searching for career reinvention or personal branding,
Yes.
what's one practical step they can take to like design the work that fits their current season, monetizing
Yeah.
experience,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
or maybe through coaching or media, like you brought up?
Yes. Yes. I think so. First thing is, if we just say, I won't say it's one thing, right? But you
Yeah.
would pick from these things, right? The one at least that most lights you up, the one that you're like, yeah, I could do that. So if you think about rebranding, how can you update your public narrative? Who
Yeah.
are you now? Right? So if you think of, again, what's the name? Method Man, or even Sherry Shepherd, for example, because I'm
Yeah.
talking about people in, social media and that are seasoned. Like Sherry Shepherd was on the TV, right? And at
Mhm.
acting, right? In sitcoms. Now she has her own talk show, for example, right? There are a lot of people that it's become more common to go from whatever they did before to where they see themselves going. And a lot of times they'll be like, really? Like one of the couples that I've seen do it, do you know Deval and Kadeen Ellis?
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah, that's a
DeVal
good
was on
example.
in
Yeah.
football.
Yeah.
Kadeem was doing makeup. And
Uh-huh.
I never forget when DeVal was like, and this is when I was watching them when they were still, in New York in their apartment, and they were on YouTube. And I was like, huh. And he was like, yeah, I'm a act. And I thought, hmm. Not that he was bad, but I just didn't know what it looked like. But it
Yeah.
got my attention. I was like, okay, let me see what this looks like. And then I saw when he went out to LA, and then his family came in, and I was like, oh. And I was like, I wonder how they gonna live out there. What their money look like? Because they were
Yeah.
normal. I mean, they are normal, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't think they were independently wealthy. Like they were definitely working, and they had
Mhm.
small children and blah blah blah. And then I saw when he got picked up by Tyler Perry, and then he was doing like
Yeah.
Christmas movies on Lifetime, and I was like, okay, so this is another example of building your plane while you fly. And then I realized his wife was the same. Now, let me just tell you right up front, I am not a Tyler Perry fan 100%. I do watch some of his things, but it is struggle porn TV now.
Yeah.
But listen, he getting that bread though.
Yeah, he
When
is.
ABC wouldn't talk to him, guess where he went? So that's what I'm saying, update your public narrative. Who
Yeah.
are you now? And I'm going to say, who do you aspire to be? Is in that, who are you now? Because for me, I see myself now like on the TEDx stage.
Yeah.
I see myself now at like, I don't know, like huge conferences or on TV, giving my opinion. But I saw that like a year and a half, 2 years ago before I saw it. So that's why I said, who are you now? It doesn't have to be in your physicality. It could be in your head. Where do you aspire to be? Where do you visualize yourself? So that's the rebrand piece.
Yeah.
You have to see it in the mind before you see it in physical. You, the person doing it. And then the second thing is for networking. So where do you have visibility without relationships per se? And in a way that you need to grow it. So I knew for me, like I was talking about visibility like on platforms, right? In reading, like the mentions in the magazines. I literally was like, okay, how can I do that? So now I teach my clients, like, okay, so what do you want to do? Like, and if you don't know, how can we get clarity? So I knew for me, yes, I could get clients. Yes, I love the work, but I also wanted to speak, right? I
Right.
also wanted to kind of build my credibility. And so it would be, how can I create that visibility and the relationships needed to do that? Because without the relationships, it's not going to happen. So I taught them how to build circles of influence. So for me, when I, for example, pitch a journalist, I connect with them on LinkedIn. I send them a thank you note when they say they read it. And for sure, if they publish, I repost and I tag them and I thank them. A lot of them will say, like, oh, they'll ask me for my personal email. I give them my personal email and I tell them they can text me if it's too much to call me, so that they can get a soundbite. Again, build those circles of influence. Now, this is not for the 150, right? Maybe 20, 30 of them, though. Guess what? I didn't have last year. And who knows where
Yeah.
that circle of influence will go. What does that cost you, Marcus? That costs you time.
Oh, that's time. Yeah.
It costs you effort.
Yeah.
But
Effort.
I'm just at the point where, well, I don't know where this seed gonna go. But you plant seeds in your garden,
Yeah. All the
and
time.
you don't always know if the birds gonna eat them, if weeds gonna take them over, or they may just bloom.
Right.
So I go with that, almost that approach, that you just don't know what seed is going to take root. And so that's what I teach them, circles of influence. So just to recap, rebranding is, who are you now? And it could start here so that you can see it outside, visualizing. Your network is relationships. Where are your circles of influence? And if you don't have them, where do you need to build them? And how can you build them? Right.
Right.
And then the last one is achieving recognition. So speaking to your own brilliance, quiet that voice that will say, girl, you're doing too much. These people don't care. Quiet that voice and really become your own publicist. So for example, excuse me, if you are talking about, let's say, coaching, for example, or let's say you've gotten laid off and you're trying to figure out what your next season is going to be, there's parts of that job that you probably really love, for example, because again, I'm talking about starting from where you are. So what are the parts of that job that you could potentially replicate that comes easy for you, but that's hard for other people? That's how things like Instacart started, Uber started, right? Personal chefing, right? Because somebody would have thought, well, I can't afford a personal chef 20 years ago. That was for rich people, right? But these days it's become democratized because somebody's like, well, I could do that in my neighborhood though. I could do that for like parties of the people that I know. And then it spreads, right? And then it scales. So same thing with your recognition here. So for example, when I talk to my clients, for example, that were in nursing, let's just say nursing, for example, and they may not have been laid off, but they're burnt out, especially with COVID and, the exposure and that sort of thing. Well, one of the things that two of them have decided to do something. One has decided that she wants to become a wellness educator. So she literally takes like all the things that she learned how to do and she teaches people online. What are the things that, you as a woman of a certain age, need to look for, or what are products that you can use, or what are certain tests you need to have. Again, she's not diagnosing anybody. She's literally doing what she would do for herself, what she would do for her family, but spreading that platform and talking about her years of being a nurse and what she's seen and what happens at the other end if you don't take care of yourself. So she positions herself as an educator, for example, because that's what you end up having to do in the hospital. So people will be like, well, what you mean a nurse is an educator? I mean, blah, blah, blah. No. Any healthcare professional has to teach the patient, for example, going home, this is how you change your bandage, or this is the time you take your medicine. Again, things that come like second nature, but that you can scale. So that's why I say be your own publicist and share your wins. So that's why since you and I talked, I would say probably 3 years ago, Marcus, I wouldn't have told you about the magazine articles. I would not have said anything about my clients. I would not say anything about, job hopping to get to, the 9 to 5. I hid my 5 to 9. And again, it comes from that place of A, being scared, B, not wanting to be rejected, C, not knowing if it would work. And then you get to a place of like, well, how people not going to find you. You got to open your mouth. So this is
Exactly.
where they say closed mouths don't get fed. But also, I will say that because I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly growing. And so the things that I used to think, well, I don't know. I'm like, no, we're going to do this thing and see what happens. You know what I mean? Type thing.
Mhm.
And so that's what I encourage them to do. So,
Yeah.
like, we start out like, so tell me a win you had this week. So, like, a win that I had this week was I had a speaking event on Friday and a speaking event on Monday. And so I used, what's the word? The autonomy that I have in my 9 to 5 to say, okay, I'm going to take calls from 7 to 12, and then I'm going to take the rest of the day because I'm salaried, right? And so it's a quiet day. So whether it's administration, whether it's talking to you, whatever the case might be, but I'm going to be a good steward of my time and not look for work because I need to step away from that a little bit more and do more of this because I really found that even though I was in Cleveland Thursday, Friday, and Florida yesterday, I was tired. I loved it, but I was tired. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. And I'm not asking nobody permission. Now, normally I'd be like, oh, I got to do these people work. I'd be on the computer, and then I was like, girl, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a slick way.
Yeah.
I just mean that I will get on the computer at 10 o'clock at night and they don't ask me about it then. So if I'm getting my work done and if my team is empowered to do what they need to do, then I can afford to step away.
Mhm.
And it's not something I'm going to do all the time. So that's why I said, that's how you can own your brilliance. Because for me to go out, for example, and have those 2 speaking engagements, again, I'm not a people person. At the National Urban League, I was around, I don't know, like 10,000 people. I loved it, but I was also like, I got to get back to my room.
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was a
Yeah.
lot, right? And then yesterday, I was at another conference and I was around about 3,000 people, which compared to the Urban League is smaller, but it was still like, ooh, okay. So when I came home Monday night, I was just like, yeah, I need some decompressing time, owning that, right? Because the other side of that is that, younger Patrice, based on how I was raised, like, girl, you listen, you can rest when you die. You don't stop with all that rest stuff. That's a lie. If you don't rest, you will die. So how are you going to work that in? You know what I mean? How are you going to really listen to your body before your body makes you listen, And so that's why I said, own your brilliance and what it takes to maintain that. Be your own publicist, be your own evangelist, but also share your wins because all those things will create momentum.
I love it. Like as you was talking, I remember like how I'm still learning to like tell my story post incarceration. And it just tied to legacy.
Yes.
Like so, like I know there's a lot of people out there, like besides myself too, that like they want to know how. What's the question? The one question. This is probably the last question too that I ask you about. Like, is like what question do you ask yourself daily to stay grounded in purpose and just keep your legacy alive?
What question do I ask myself?
Yeah.
Do you love me? Me asking me.
Yeah.
Because then, based on the answer to that, which is yes, then I'm going to move a certain way.
Mhm.
And I can think of times where I was like, girl, listen, stop it. To me to me. And I would shut that down and I would go into mom mode, work mode, whatever. And it wasn't, I don't mean from a self-harm place. I just mean that I didn't prioritize myself.
Yeah.
So I start with, do you love me? Yeah, girl, I do. Okay, let's go. So it starts with meditation. It starts with music. It starts with movement. It starts with laughter. It starts with, a good scrub in the shower. It starts with an extra 10 minutes in the shower I need. It may start with, laying down a little bit longer. It may just be doing something for me that normally my brain would make me think it's indulgent.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not, because somebody that loves you is going to go that extra mile. So I'm asking myself, you ready? You ready to do the extra mile for you? And so when I do that, I'm kind of like, yeah, girl. And that's whether I'm happy, I'm sad, kids drive me crazy, work. And then those things that used to drive me crazy don't when I start there.
Period.
I can shake it off, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that things aren't happening, but I can
Yeah.
shake it off. Be like, listen,
Mhm.
I'm in a good mood. I'm not doing that with you today.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is. And so that has really helped my outlook.
Patrice, you drop some gems that are going to like transform our family's approach to reinvention for sure.
Well, great.
You know?
I'm glad, Marcus. I'm glad.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with reinvention.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with disrupting. There's nothing wrong with breaking the rules. What they say, ask for forgiveness versus permission.
Yeah.
Do that. Do that, especially when it's for the greater good, whether it's the greater good with you or the greater good within your friends and family, the greater good of the world. There's nothing wrong with that.
Excellent. Do you got any plugs you want to put out there?
I mean, I will say this. If you want to explore, you or your audience, what reinvention could really look like, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm at the Career Nomad. You can also go on my website, www.careernomad.org. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at hello@patricelindo.com. But I am just elated that I got the chance to sit with you and to talk with you. And, now I can really say, Google me. If you Google me, I never thought, right?
Yeah.
If you have the courage to dream and see yourself in your next season, you'd be surprised it would be better. And in hindsight, I see that in so many areas of my life, but I didn't understand it. I didn't think I would get married. I didn't think I would have children. I didn't think I'd have I don't know what I thought, but I just didn't. And I have 3 amazing daughters. I have a wonderful husband of 30 years. I mean, the firm I'm working at now was something that I saw in the airport. And I was like, I don't even know what it would take to get it, but I'm gonna get there. And I'm there. And that's what I'm saying. I'm building the plan. So build whatever it is that you want to build. And even if you don't know the whole picture, build the picture that you can see, and it will build on top of that. And you'll talk to more people and you'll have more experiences, and the information and inputs that you will need to create your dream will blow your mind. Because I know that's what's happening for me. I know it's happening for my clients. So if that's something that you or your audience would be interested in doing, please do reach out. I would love to work with you.
I appreciate that invitation, Patrice. So
Absolutely.
I think that's going to go a long way. And so let's seal this with a call to rise up. And for those out there, especially our Hollywood friends out there and other professionals, to rewrite those final acts. So that's all. All right. We'll close it right there. Transform You family. I got to talk to you at the end. Wasn't that straight fire? Patrice Williams-Lindo just showed us how Hollywood's legends and you can ditch the fade to black script and rewrite your final act with the purpose, grit, and lots of faith, of course. From navigating AI to rebranding your legacy, her playbook is golden for veterans, creatives, and anyone battling career chaos out there. Are you ready to rewrite your story? You might want to check out Patrice's work. We're going to have her link in the episode description below, and anything else you need will be there as well. For more on finding purpose and crushing spiritual exhaustion, grab my free 3-minute prayer guide at marcus-hart.com. Want to go deeper? Book a mental health coaching or storytelling coaching session with me. I have that link too in the episode description. We got so much more for you. And don't be afraid to take my free credit assessment. That link is in the description. Or get Transform You book, a book that's exclusive for leaders out there who wants to lead in the right matter, and support our veteran missions with fire merch at Nova Evolve. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comment section. And share this with someone who needs to raise on up or rise on up. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love. I'm out.
Transform You Radio. You are now tuned in to Transform You Radio. You hear me? Check. I stand for what you stand for. I'm at your door like the landlord. I can see the future, yeah, I fast forward. I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me, I'm in rare form. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid. Small changes make impact. I ran for it, I stand for it, I'm not sitting back. You can leave the rat race or you can leave the trap. Come with me, let's rap. Take a trip and we back. And we'll be right back. Come with me, let's rap. Take a trip and we back. And we'll be be right back. I stand for what you stand for. Hey, I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid.
Follow me.